Next on Building Character, these two men bought a 20,000 square foot mess of a building to transform it into a home.
Everybody thought we were crazy.
Hi, welcome to Building Character. I'm Troy Norton. You know, finding your life's passion is one thing, living it is another. But living in it, well, that's something different altogether. Well, the guys we're about to meet managed to do all three in a small town in Michigan, and it's quite a performance to behold.
At first glance, driving up to this 100-year-old factory in Three Oaks, Michigan, isn't very impressive.
There are 7 buildings in the factory.
And we're building number 5 out of that group.
Manufacturing executive David Fink and theater writer Kim Clark had been eyeing this unlikely paradise for some time, even though it wasn't for sale.
It was a dump.
But they had their hearts set on owning building number 5. In fact, they wanted it so badly, they moved into an apartment next door to wait it out.
The guy walked over one day and said, you know, you've been here a while. I think, I'm ready to sell.
And so even though the building looked pretty unattractive,
Right where we're standing, there were 3 wrecked autos, and there was a scrub tree, and there was a printing factory in the back of it.
Kim was still insistent that this 20,000 square foot building could be converted into their dream home.
Somebody's got a vision for what it can become. You've got to go with that and trust them.
The building's original purpose fell victim to modern times and modern fashion.
It was originally a factory where they made women's corsets using turkey feathers.
Although the corset factory eventually closed, and the building was later used for storage, the building's original name, Warren Featherbone Factory, remains to this day. Well, the days of corsets are long past, but this building still has an interesting present. Let's check it out. Head up the staircase, walk through Kim and David's front door, which leads you to a theater? We'll get back to that shortly. Continue down the hallway, and you'll find David and Kim's cozy 3,000 square foot apartment. But it hasn't always looked this nice.
The gouges and the nicks and the staples and the bad paint, you can look at that as a bad thing or a good thing. And we saw it as a great thing.
In fact, instead of lamenting the condition of the building, they embraced it. Inside of the building was thousands of square feet of empty space. The downstairs, so large, it once held giant industrial sewing machines. Upstairs, you can still see the 10,000 square feet of space where the clothing fabric was once stored. Here, snow and rain damage had done a serious number on the floors.
And we had to take out every single piece of lumber on the second floor, including the big beams. And we saved every one of those beams and to be reused.
In fact, this grand staircase is made from those beams. And this beam in the kitchen is an historical map of the building's past.
So we've got the fire extinguisher sign, we've got a red emergency banner, we've got someone's phone number, we've got 84 plus 11 equals 95, and they had a lot of character.
There was a lot of beautiful wood throughout the building, but none of the floors were in good enough shape to save. So they collected what wood they could in every part of the factory and piled it up next door.
It was about 12 feet high in stick form, and then when we got ready, we pulled every nail out.
Then, they laid the saved wood in the apartment, scrubbed it, and coated it with polyurethane. One of the biggest challenges Kim and David had to overcome was figuring out how to design their living space with over 10,000 square feet to configure. They knew they wanted the space to be comfortable and accessible. The living and dining area, where factory workers once stood, is now one long space with lots of color and interesting decor.
So you see things you like and you end up with them, and then you try to find a place for them.
Behind the living space, walls were constructed to create the kitchen. Small and simple was the way they wanted it, by choice and by checkbook.
When we got to the stage of finishing the kitchen, and we didn't have a lot of budget left.
So they bought the cheapest cabinets available and cut a hole for beadboard panels.
We painted them with crackle glaze and put the same color as on the living room walls. So it dresses it up.
Coming up, when you have this much space, you can have as many guests as you want.
This is a special room because it's got kind of a little surprise. Come on, let me show you.
All that and more when Building Character continues.
And we're back with Building Character. Well, Kim Clark and David Fink took a buggy whip factory and resurrected it into a thriving theater and a home that they just can't seem to leave. Let's see how dramatic it really gets.
It seems an unlikely place for a cozy home, but this 100-year-old women's corset factory in Three Oaks, Michigan is just that. Kim Clark, a theater writer, convinced his partner David Fink, manufacturing executive, that this 20,000 square foot space was their dream home.
Well, I always think he's kind of nuts, but I trust his judgment because his track record's really proven.
They bought building number 5 of the old Warren Featherbone factory in 1999. After a year and a half of converting the space into their home, they are still enamored with the original 16-inch thick brick walls, a great built-in design element. Not to mention, fantastic energy conservation. Kim and David left them as is on the inside. No sheetrock here. This is a wall in the den with built-in houseplants.
It is beautiful. We wouldn't think of changing it.
In addition to a warm and cozy living space and a small kitchen, there are 5 bedrooms in the building. This is the master bedroom behind the kitchen, where fabric was once stored. Head up the staircase in the middle of the living room, and you'll find one of the guest rooms, and the best seat in the house.
This is a special room because it's got kind of a little surprise. Come on, let me show you. Box seats at the theater. Bravo, bravo, bravissimo. Yes.
With all the extra space to work with, Kim and David were able to create a theater. Building it was a dream come true for them, and today, the theater is very much alive. There are performances here every weekend, and if you're a lucky overnight guest, you can go right from a show to bed.
Behind the stage, we have the 3rd bedroom with its own fireplace.
With 5 bedrooms and audiences filling the building, the bathroom situation could get dicey. Not in this house.
Welcome to what might be the most important room in the entire building, the women's room. Now, my mother was very insistent that women not have to wait in line to use the restroom, so we have 6 stalls instead of the required 2, and they all have full-size doors.
The drain in the concrete floor is painted to look like a sunflower.
We continue the motif of the sunflower here in the sinks, which are embedded in wood that used to be the rafters in the ceiling of the theater. Thanks, Mom.
The dimensions in this building are larger than life. After all, it's 20,000 square feet of space to fill. So how do you decorate such a large home?
You have to not be afraid to buy a planter that's 4 feet high, just the pot, and then put in, flowers that are another 10 feet above that.
And they have the freedom to really spread out.
Imagine having the world's biggest playroom.
This is the workroom. It's on the 2nd floor on the other side of the building from the apartment.
It's probably 6,000–7,000 square feet. We use that for rehearsal space and for creating.
In addition to loving their new home, Kim and David love their new hometown.
Walk down the street and people like slow down their car and just shout out the window, "Hold 2 tickets for the show tomorrow night for me."
Right, it's great.
We'll see you real soon at the Acorn Theater in Three Oaks, Michigan.
And that's a wrap.